So now this is all the same typeface, so we need to work on our type hierarchy so we can break this information down for the viewer. So this is going to be a subheading below the subheading. So this is going to need to be bold or brought to our attention as a headline a little bit more. So let's just make this Open Sans extra bold. Leave it at that. So it's already starting to break down. I'm going to take this one, and of course we can make character styles too. For all these, we could call this the second subheading or whatever we want to do. So for the crust, and so let's change this a little bit. A lot of wide gaps between these lines. So let's go ahead and reduce our leading just a little bit here. And we could probably make this a little bit smaller than the type over in preparation. So let's go ahead and make it 10 points. We could probably even get away with 9 and then collapse it a little further. And I almost wonder if an italicized would look good, just kind of experimenting. Just maybe a semi-bold italic. Perfect. So let's make all this semi-bold italic. If you ever want to do bullet points, you go down to bullets and numbering, and we could just go ahead and put on some bullet points there. And you can click over to options, and there's lots of options where you can change how much indentation is happening. So I'm just going to do the first line indentation. I'm going to just bring that in. Perfect. So if I find this to be good, I can highlight it and add that as a paragraph style, since that's technically paragraph with bullets and indentations. So I'm going to say this as ingredients. So now I can highlight this and go to paragraph styles and do my ingredients. Might need to do a manual break there, or left paragraph. So what we want to do now, let's go ahead and change our line here. Bring our line down. So now we want to do something with the bottom. Let's do our little quick tip badge and then have kind of another solid colored section to put our quick tip. So let's just copy and paste this little box of information and put in our quick tip. Let's go ahead and save this as a character style right here. Call this body copy for tip. And go ahead and load it in. And let's do our different bar here. Let's go ahead and just bring this down and bring this backwards into the layering system. And go ahead and make all of this type white. So we're going to go to our color panel. Let's make it white. And we can adjust this. There's a little bit too much white space, so let's bring this a little bit more to the top. So now we're ready to do our quick tip badge. I'm going to go into Adobe Illustrator right now and go to that logo file we prepared. And I am going to go ahead and delete everything in the center. So I'm going to select all, deselect those back 2 layers I want, and get rid of all the type. So this is what we can drag in. Of course, we might have to, since this had an issue being dragged right into Adobe InDesign, let's just go ahead and save this as an EPS. And there's another way to bring in files, is the place option, and we can go up to File, go down to Place, and then we can select our badge EPS and go ahead and open, and then we can place it anywhere in here. So you could drag it in, or you can go up to File and Place. It's going to be very similar in the way they come in. Let's scale this down. What I want to do here, now that I'm bringing this little badge in, is we need to have a little bit of contrast. So contrast is king. I talk about it all throughout the class. Right now, when you zoom out, you have a lot of blue going on. What we want to do is we want to shake that up a little bit and have some contrast to all the blue. So what my thought was, this bottom area, why not make that the gold color? So I'm in my swatch panel and I'm just going to make that gold. And let's go ahead and put our quick tip language in here. And I thought maybe a little bit of drop shadow might work here too, to make it lift up over that orange, but not too strong. So I'm going to select our object, right click, effects, and go to drop shadow. Just a very, very small one. Let's reduce the opacity to 22%. And let's tighten the distance just a little bit. That's all we need, just a little bit of drop shadow to lift it up above the background. Let's select our type tool and type in quick tips. And let's go ahead and put that on top. And let's go to our character styles and see if we don't have something already saved that would look really good. There we go. We already have that saved. Let's break this into 2 lines and do a center alignment. Or we could do some manual spacing here. There's our quick badge. So zoom out. What I want to do is I want to group this badge together. So I'm just selecting my badge layers. I'm going to right click and group it. So now I can go ahead and turn this whole thing, make it look like a stamp on the side. So there's our little badge, and we have our type here. We can make this 4 lines. So here's the thing with typography. I'm not sure if I went over this before, but when you have a big block of copy, if you have it stretched too far across, it gives the viewer some eye fatigue because they're reading so far across this line and then they have to come back all the way over here and read again. So it has reader fatigue. So it's really nice to kind of keep, so right now we have this fairly long, it's acceptable length that the reader can go across, but if we just made it maybe 4 lines, it'll just make it even easier for the viewer to read. So I'm just going to get rid of those lines that they were just competing a little bit too much. So I'm going to keep it just like that, keep it nice and clean. Of course, we can always toggle on our margins so we can make sure everything is lining up really well. Just getting a little too close to the bottom, and that's why I wanted to shift all of this up just a little bit. It's always nice to have a good margin around your edges, just like we discussed with the last project. So now I'm just going to continue to finesse some of the spacing. I'm going to bring this up a little bit so this is not so close to the orange bar or gold bar. So I'm just going to see if I can't bring this up. And this is going to set the mood and tone for the whole rest of the book because it's all going to be copied and reversed. So on the other page, it's going to be this same layout, just replacing all of the ingredients and replacing the photo. So we really want to make sure it's perfect before we replicate this over and over again.